Hello everyone, welcome to my final episode of Frogcast. Um, Today it's about the Purple Room, and this was the last session I was voted on. I'm gonna start by looking at the East, because I want to talk about what happened here. The Ching player decided it would be a very funny prank to simply not show up to the final session. So this country hasn't had a player for the last 40 years or so. And as such, it's not in the greatest of states. Um, whilst other countries compared to it are a lot better. Khmer, however, was a player was found, but I think they left. I'm not sure. Not sure why they've got so many dip points, or why they're going influence. I guess they must be AI controlled. Because I haven't embraced manufacturers, because it's spawned fucking Ottomans, which is absurd. But yeah. So East Asia has been a bit of a disappointment this game. There's been nothing credible in this region. Khmer, of course, has just been Khmer, really. They've only had 1,000 dev most of the game, which is really not enough to combat against everyone else. And let's have a look at Bermanis here, who somehow fucking lost to Great Britain. I really don't understand how you lose to Great Britain. It just doesn't make an inch of sense to me. Like, he's got 500k manpower. He's got 600 force, some 161 mercs available, and he's also got like quite a few troops, you know. Um, and you've got like literally all of India, and you still fucking lose. It's just absurd. Income's pretty good. Would be better if it had a player on it, of course, because the player rage quit when he lost to GB. To be honest, I would too. It's pretty absurd losing to GB. But yeah, this country is just run by Sebastian, and he's devved quite a bit because I taught him how to. However, he hasn't devved enough, which leads to his country being pretty big of a mess. Talking about Bamanis and how he lost to you.
Yeah, we're watching.
And I'll get on to Great Britain and talk about how he won this war later. For now, let's just say it was a massive oversight on Bamanis' part, and some incompetent army maneuvers.
Mayhaps, yes.
Continuing with the trend of going on eastwards, Yemen with the third highest manpower as a fucking African ass country. Literally, some good shit right here. Properly devved mountains. You rarely see that. You rarely say that. You rarely want to say that. But here we have a Yemen who's better devved than half of Europe. Yeah. You got this Poland with hardly any dev. You got Ottomans hardly any dev. You got Prussia with some dev, but not as much as he should have. You got Russia with random spots of dev. And you got France and GB who are pretty much fully devved in most of the core parts of their country. And then you got Yemen who's devved his fucking mountains like a Chad. Um, he's got a lot of money in the bank and he's ready for war. So you can see by the troops lined up in Zanzibar. Which is it's fairly impressive to do this as fucking Ethiopia. But you should have gone for Mamluks earlier on. Like I've said this every broadcast, but Mamluk ideas are better than Yemen ideas. Yemen has, in terms of military, 10% national manpower and 10% goods, whilst Mamluk has 5% discipline and some other shit I don't remember. But it's worthwhile. It's good stuff, right? But yeah, this country is like the best African country I've seen. You know, it's like actually legitimately fully devved in 1680. Even my African country wasn't as well devved as this. Um,
Very nice.
he's a Sunni, of course, with Malikli, which means you can dev decently. However, ideally he'd have gone Shia for the morale and shock damage, which is still relevant no matter what people sell you. Alright. But yeah, this is a really good country, and I'm proud of him. Songhai, African countries. He's in the middle of a war with Great Britain. He's got one big death stack instead of actually proper reinforcement stacks. He probably wants to just consolidate this and recruit these mercs. Now you got 60 more mercs to work with, and you're not bleeding manpower. And I'd attack this British Mexico state just 'cause fuck him. I'd leave these rebels for now because they're trapping the British 1Ks and could wipe them maybe. But I'd accept them if they took a fort or something, so you could just get the fort back for free. At the moment we got 51 war score, and I'm starting to build up troops in North Africa, but the game is ending, so it doesn't matter. Songhai has been a permanent ally of the French Empire, and he's done a lot less deving than his Yemenis counterpart. However, he's still done a decent amount of deving. With 664 manpower dev, whilst Yemen has 835. But Yemen's built all of his buildings, and I'm guessing from looking at it, yeah, you haven't built most of them. If you build all of those, you'd have a wee bit more, and you'll be in a much better position to fight back against Yemen or whoever it is you need to fight. But yeah, that's really it for Africans. They've done really well this game, and they've resisted British imperialism until the end. No, Africa was never conquered. Remember that.
And what about South Africa?
What do you mean? That doesn't exist. Ottomans. Ottomans is a disappointment. He's a papega, to say the least. And like, I'm just looking at this now. I'm once again unsure how his morale is so bad. Guess he didn't pop his golden arrow. Oh, he's already popped it. But Russia has a lot more army morale. But yeah, it's just this Ottomans still hasn't fucking devved. He converted his entire country to Shia instead of converting to Orthodox early on, which is the recommended play.
Oh, where they took Constantinople.
Yes, and then he immediately truce broke.
At least that part's good.
Yeah. But yeah, this Ottomans has been a tale of winning one war against Mamluks, and then doing nothing but fighting Russia the entire game. Timurids died to India, but Ottomans got the meat of the pie. Trade-wise, it's pretty decent, but could do better, of course. Somehow I fucking spawned manufactories, which is annoying because I wanted manufactories.
How many manufacturers did they even end up with?
Me?
Just out of interest. No, Ottomans.
Oh, well, I'm looking right now. Like, quite a decent spread, but
Okay.
still quite a few we could build. And build-up wise, it's really fucking suboptimal. Deving wise, it's extremely suboptimal. He dev this highlands here to 30 dev over this farmland inland cloth center of trade, which is still completely undevved, and there's no university built on it.
Regional capitals.
SMH in my head. And like, it's so good to dev this land as well. I dev it early on even. You know? Like, even here without burgers loyal, without anything, it's still fucking super cheap to dev. You get your burgers loyal, you build a fucking university there, and it's so easy to dev, you know? And like, it's a central trade as well, so you bump it up to level 3, and every province in the state gets
Oh wait, Basra was Baghdad wasn't done.
like, it's just so undevved, you know, in this region, which is so good for deving. Which is a shame, to say the least, because this Ottomans could have been genuinely strong if he didn't fucking meme around and take offensive inequality. But he took offensive inequality, and going trade when he's already got a stonking income is a mistake, in my opinion. Like, you drop it, income only drops 460, and you take diplomatic instead, because look at this. You've got Merc force in 137, because this mod shits on Mercs. Yeah. Could be better always. And fighting in this war with 351k manpower in the bank is a giant mistake. You're fighting Russia, okay? You're not fighting Mamluks. You're not fighting some weaker nation. Um, you're fighting the strongest nation on the planet with the best military ideas in the game and second most manpower dev in the game. And you're choosing to not recruit 300,000 troops you could be recruiting. You're not even at your force limit. It's a shame what you're doing, honestly. And,
One of the big sads we said for it was they didn't use the dimmies.
yeah,
0% on dimmies.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you stay Muslim, I think you have to use them.
Exactly, like, that's one of the only reasons to fucking use it. And he's just here like, yeah, no, fuck that. Um, but yeah, this country has been a mess, honestly. Every session. But yeah, that's really it for Ottomans. Could have done better, should have taken better ideas, lots of could have, should have, would have. But in the end, he did what he did, and he lost Constantinople for it.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Exactly, Dave. Poland. Poland's been a Chad all game. Um, he started as Austria. He fought giant wars early on against his neighbours, and he's come out alive. He's currently fighting a war against Russia with Ottomans and the Polish AI. But earlier in the session, we fought against Prussia, which was Sweden into Prussia, and managed to beat him back. For now, this country has been pretty poorly devved, with most of the land it owns being less than 20 dev, including lots of farmlands over here that would just be so good to dev. You just build a university in it, get prosperity, you encourage development, get your burgers loyal, and disloyal burgers agony. Um, I just spam them out a bunch of land to get them into like neutral territory. Um, but this country has been through a very rough time, having lots of prolonged wars against its neighbours, and fighting France for no good reason for a really long time. But he's finally got his most of Germany and half of Italy, which is a pretty impressive feat as Austria. Um, However, he did lose a giant war against Russia to win one against Prussia. So you win some, you lose some. But yeah, like Poland just needs more building up. Like he's got pretty much zero universities in his entire country. It's a giant mistake. So at this point, from like 80 years ago to this point, you just want to have been deving. Alright? So your country can look like this, 20 dev everywhere. Or like this, 30 dev and 20 dev everywhere. Not like this, which is just a mess. This country could be so much stronger if we just focus on deving this past century. But that's boring, so what do I know? But yeah, um, that's Poland for you. I'm gonna have a look at the corpse of Prussia before we move on. Prussia was ran by Rope. I attacked Poland. I said I wouldn't do anything, and then I fight him anyway when I'm out of my bankruptcy, and we beat him because Russia declares his own war instead of joining the first war. So I tell Poland, uncon to France, uncon to Russia even. We can beat Prussia together, but we can't beat Russia and Prussia. And beating Russia would take a lot more effort than beating Prussia. Um, so we managed to beat him back, and he goes bankrupt in the middle of the war, so we cross the strait and 100% him, and then he just leaves the game. No, his first hard war, his first war where he, as Prussia, formed by Sweden with the Merc event, loses a war, he quits. When I've been ganked as Brandenburg with a tenth of the provinces he has, and I've kept on playing after losing. Erling played a Brandenburg that was like 3 provinces after he got ganked by Denmark and Austria and Bohemia. He just kept on playing, whilst you've just not. You know, and quitting after one war is just despicable. I lost the war. I didn't quit. I kept playing. I came back from it. You know, I came out stronger than I was before. And you're just sat here not doing that. It's just honestly annoying. Um, Russia. Russia is a tale of mismanagement and smoivid inting. Um, he's got these giant ass vassals of Transoxiana and Siberia, and I'm honestly not sure why they're so big. However, he's making giant amounts from trade, so who's the real winner here? Buildings wise, manufacturers are everywhere. It's good to see. Conscription centres, I don't think anyone's built any of those, but you've not even built many regimental camps because your provinces aren't optimised very well. Dev map mode is pretty disappointing, to say the least. There's far too much red in here, and should be green by this point. And universities wise, is really not enough at all. However, he's still the strongest country because he's got Russian ideas, which are the best ideas in the game. Um, and he's gone pretty much unpunished the entire game with committing to dangerous wars for no reason and inting to save Hash Boys, who finally died. And he is the last of the Hash Boys. Mm. All of the other ones died and left. Mm. So, it's just how it be sometimes, you know. But yeah, this country is, it's like, as I said, the strongest country in the game, despite being mismanaged. Despite having less manpower depth than me, because he has more manpower modifiers, more force modifiers, better national ideas. But that's just how the game is, you know. And he's of course been boxing with Prussia the entire game, um, which is just weird champ to say the least. But yeah, that's it for Russia. One of the contenders for big winner for sure, but he just inted too much to actually get it. Now onto the man of the hour, Dave himself. Um, Capping on admin, just tanking these stab hits. Yeah, he can keep this up for a very, very, very long time with this admin focus when filling diplomatic ideas. He's
Reyes was under the impression was going to keep killing Indians and Asians, and then they didn't. So he just didn't swap.
but yeah, this country is very strong. It's got fourth highest max manpower if I remember correctly. Behind Yemen, France, and Russia, and it is very well dev'd with every single province in the British Isles being 20 dev, aside from Shetland and Verona.
I didn't think the Isles because they're just two provinces, so I don't think they're too worth.
SMH for my head. What have you been deving instead then? Hmm.
After we were doing like a bunch in our colonies,
Hmm.
colonies are actually quite strong now. If
Hmm.
they went another session, they would have started being my wrecking ball for the rest of the world, but we never got there.
SMH for my head. I mean, like, I'm just looking at the numbers right now. I've got 500,000 troops, and I'm not
Take a
even.
look at manpower map mode though of the colonies. You'll like that. That's where we were spending our points.
I see now. I see. Yeah. However, this is a mistake in my opinion, because let's have a look at national ideas. British Mexico. They've got 10% dev cost, so them deving themselves is better. A really Republican tradition, so it's good for them to dev even more Jeebus. Construction cost, they can build stuff. Idea costs, they can. But yeah, there's just 10% morale versus your what ideas GB got? They've got 5% discipline.
That's
Wow. Okay, actually, those colonial ideas are better. What the fuck?
yes. That's why I'm
No,
still
GB
being
ideas are
to
so.
them.
And you took GB ideas instead of Irish ideas. You know, you fell for distinct ploy. Uh, so when we were fighting, I had 7 morale and you had 5. How much do you have?
Yes.
Um,
I think
yeah,
we got to like 6.
4.75. And I'm just gonna look at myself now because I might as well. And yeah, I've got 6.82 here. Yeah, and I don't even have maxed out army tradition. But most of my country is maxed out. You know, I finally devved all the provinces in France to 20. You know, I'm just gonna keep jerking myself off about this because I'm proud of myself. You know, despite bankrupting 3 times, despite fighting so many in wars, you know, I still came out on top pretty much. You know, with pretty rich node. As I said, 1 million maximum manpower. And what turned out to be the highest manpower dev in the game. Like tag Russ. Russia's got 1039. Great Britain's got
618.
767.
Oh, but yeah, we wanted to
Yemen's
move
got
our. It would have been a
835.
lot stronger if we did the Asian stuff, but
Yeah,
we vanished.
but yeah, I end up with the most dev and the most dev of any player and exactly 3,000 great power score, which
Pretty
totally wasn't
nice.
me wasting my admin um in the last few moments of the game so that I'd be up with a nice number. Um, but yeah, I finally did it. I've had a successful France. Know that I've played us.
You want to know what happened to India's?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's talk about that then.
So we ended the session and like I wanted to declare war on them straight away
Yeah.
because I rolled for the military reform, so
Mm,
20% morale, but then Khmer didn't show at start, so I had to find a sub from got a sub, but I felt it would be massive bad manners if I attacked Bahmanis without his ally being there.
yeah.
But something which we noticed was they'd had things like Maldives and Khmer took the other section of the Sumatran Islands,
Mhm.
which they can't really defend because we'll always have naval supremacy.
Yeah.
That's just 43 war score forever.
Mm,
So we declared on them for Maldives. We occupied it.
mhm.
We stab hit them out for a break alliance, and then we just truce broke Bahmanis.
Mm,
We landed in Kot, assaulted it, then pushed for the next fort, assaulted and took that one.
mm.
And at that time, there were no forts in all of southern India.
Oh.
So we just sat down, waited it out because the problem was we had no reinforced speed. It was so slow to reinforce. So we had to wait for reinforcements for a long time. And then we're slowly pushing away through India. Then they unconned. We took the crossing and just built a fort straight away in the highlands to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, then it was like, yeah, I can't win this back. And I'm like, I mean, I think you could
Uh,
if you stuck around. It'll be hard, but yeah, if we would just keep committing to Asia,
mm,
because Khmer, they've left the Sumatran Islands. That's just free war score sitting there constantly.
yeah.
They don't need to take it.
Mm. SMH my head. But
And so,
yeah.
like, having a Cuba who had like 75 heavies, I had like 45 myself or 30. It's like, yeah, no one's going to contest you on the sea. You should just give up all islands if you can, because it's just going to cost you war score
Yeah.
otherwise.
Like if you look at my France, I consciously didn't conquer the islands in Genoa because I knew Dave would do something like that.
Mission for Gibraltar. Ready to get fired?
I mean, you can't get Gibraltar because I'm on this side, and you
For
can't
now.
beat me. Yeah, yes, I am with 500,000 troops, Dave. But yeah, that's it for the Frogcast. Thank you for the game, Dave. I appreciate you
Thanks for
coming back to
playing.
this, and thank you everyone who's watching for watching. Um, we'll see you next time. It'll probably be my Frogcast, my own game on Friday.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.